All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our July edition of Ask an Angular GDE, where we have Angular GDEs who are here to answer questions. So I'm going to start out with introducing our GDEs, and I have to start with Sonder, of course, who came up with this whole event. This was his idea to begin with, and he's the best one of all of us at answering questions. How are you doing, Sonder?
I'm doing well. I had a weekend off and I had yesterday off, so I started walking again today. And I feel really like I need a vacation.
Well, it's almost time.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you spending your time with us. Thank you very much for coming and hanging out with us. It's always nice to have you. And we have Aristides Pampakos in the house. How's it going, Aris? It's so good to see you.
Hello, Bonnie. Nice to be here.
Can you tell us the latest? So your new book, so it's not a new book, it's a second edition of the original book?
It's a new book for me, but it is a second edition of that series. The first edition was written by someone else.
Okay, and if anyone wanted a sneak preview, so because you're going to be on Angular Sussex tomorrow with our friend Tom White, who's very cool.
Yeah.
Sonder and Sam and I went on Angular Sussex, and we had so much fun. And Angular Sussex, by the way, is an online group, and it works and actually this whole format was largely inspired by Tom White's amazing group at Angular Sussex, because it's the same as this, like everybody turns their cameras on and it's super cozy and friendly. And Eris is going to be there, and you're doing a snippet from your actual book?
Yeah, I will go through all the chapters and I will try to give a very sneak preview, not very much in detail because I don't want to spoil anything,
Yeah.
So I will go through each chapter and show some screenshots and some samples. But the general idea is that I want to show what each chapter covers, because each chapter is a different project. It has been created with a different technology and Angular. So, yeah.
Natty, very good question. Natty wants a link so she can sign up. You can go into the Angular Europe channel and RSVP there, and you can get the link. You can also go to meetup.com, Angular Sussex, or you can sign up for Angular Europe, because Tom is a host in both places. So they'll be posted in both places. In either place, you can RSVP and get the link so you can see Eris.
That's right, yeah. So I will also give away some discount promotional code for the book, a 30% discount.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome.
Can I say something else, Bonnie?
Yes, you can.
I want to thank Sander personally for his review in the Scali chapter, because there is a chapter about Scali.
Yeah.
It was my pleasure, Aris.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We've pretty much all gotten to be friends with Sonder, and we've learned over the years that we all review, like Sonder reviews everything before it goes out to make sure that it's right. And he doesn't have a lot of time for, you guys might not always see Sonder, but all of us have gone and he checks our work before we teach you anything. So it's right. So thank you, Sonder. We appreciate you. Because I did the same thing with my course. It was like in week 3, we were doing the content session. And I was like, I can't do this without thanking Sonder. So, yeah. All right, let's not get all mushy here. Sonder's going to get a big head. Okay, so.
Even bigger than now.
You know the drill. This is Ask Us Anything. So put your hands up if you want to ask a question. Eris, can Natty get a discount code today, or she should come? Well, she's going to come tomorrow too, but yeah.
She wants to stack her discount codes.
Natty's got questions about Eris's book. That's where we're at. We're starting off the day good.
Okay.
I have Eris's last book.
If she can't make it, Natty, if you can make it, just ping me and I will arrange for a discount code. So it will be like you were there. So
I will definitely try to be there. So no worries. Okay. But I will ping you if I don't, because I still want the discount code. I'm curious about the book.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Good question, Natty. Who else has questions?
I do have one, since no one else is speaking, So it's about the root reuse strategy. I'm brand new to this. I actually didn't even know Angular provided leverage for us to, play with it. And I'm wondering if it is even a good practice to start with, if I should be fiddling with it, or if I should stay away from it.
As usual, the answer is it depends. I have never ever used it in a real application. Perhaps that gives you some answer.
If Sander doesn't use it, then maybe I shouldn't use it either. Okay, so I found
have
it
also
because
never
you're already
used it.
using it.
I was yielding to Sonder on this one because I've never done anything with it.
Yeah, I've played with it. I've used it in like some things to see what it is doing. But I have a little bit of feeling it's doing it on the wrong spot. Because actually what usually you want to do is keep the data around and just rebuild the component really quickly, which you can if you have the data around. So the data should be cached in a service, and the service should be in charge of those things. What happens if you use this route reuse strategy is that it actually caches the component and the instance of the component. And this might lead to hard to diagnose things. But if your use case is simple enough, it works fine. It is a thing you can use. There was like an article about it like last week, and I was reminded of it. And I thought, oh yeah. But I really never had. I never needed it. I know it was there, but it was never something I think, hey, I can solve this use case with this thing.
Okay. So I really want to learn more of it. Sorry, because the use case that they are using right here is that there's this big component that they really wanted to force it to not cache the data. So they are just overriding the should reuse root to make it return false when the data reuse is there, so that it doesn't cache it. But I'm not sure if it's good because it has terrible performance. Sorry, I interrupted you, Agent RR.
So they are using the route reuse strategy to make sure it gets destroyed.
That's right. And
if you don't use the thing, it will be destroyed. The only use case you have is if you are navigating in the same component. If you are going to my application /user /1/2/3, the component will get reused. And that can lead to some problems, and people go to the route reuse strategy to solve those problems. But actually the promise is that they are reading out the parameter from the router like with a promise or like once, instead of listening for the updates to it. If you just listen to the updates of the router, you can just fetch your new data and everything will work hunky-dory, and you don't have to resort to trashing the DOM, because that is what this thing is going to do. It's going to throw away everything that is built and then rebuild it all over, which in some... No, it's never a good idea, basically. And well, if you're listening for the router, you're only updating the data in an already existing component. So for that use case, it is also not a good idea to use it.
Okay, thank you. I'm lucky this is being recorded so I can show it to them.
Excellent question, as always, Natty. Okay, Rob, you have a question?
No, it wasn't a question. It was more of Natty's. So this reuse router strategy, can it be used for like a breadcrumbs, right? Because I was faced with this dilemma like a couple of months ago, and I had to do it manually. So I could have used something like that. But again, I mean, if it's going to cache the component, that's a problem, because, you know, all these different components are going to stay in memory.
You can use it for that, but that is not the goal for the thing. So it really depends on what you want to keep in your in your thing, because sometimes people want to know want to have the place in there, and sometimes people want to have the history in there. So it depends what you want. If you want to have the history in your, how are those things called again?
Activated route.
No, you have like the
Oh, the breadcrumb.
oh yeah, the breadcrumbs. If you want to have historical breadcrumbs, you should be listening for the history, navigator history, something in the browser, and you can just record whatever is coming in there and push it into an array and just display that. If you want to have breadcrumbs that are for the location, basically the path the user traveled to get there, which is a little bit different from the history, it becomes a little bit more challenging. But also, I still would go for listening for the route history.
Is this what we're talking about? The
Yeah,
route
this
reuse
is-
strategy?
Yeah. The thing
And
is,
it
this-
helps to look at the methods here. Should detach, store, should attach, retrieve, and should reuse route. And it says it provides a way to customize when activated routes get reused. Right?
Yeah, what you can do there is basically always for the breadcrumbs should detach and always return false, but just cache the routes that are coming in. But there are multiple ways to do that.
Maybe I should rephrase, because what I did was I did a I was loading custom components inside of one component, which is a tab component, and every time that you click on a tab, it loads this other component. It creates this component automatically, so it's not even in the route, so it's nowhere. So I was building my breadcrumbs as I click on the different items on the tabs, so that it will go into like some kind of structure. So like, if tab A, then tab B, tab C, and then you can click on tab A again to go all the way back to tab A. But I don't think that will work on that scenario, right?
No, because the router is not being used, so you need to make something by yourself if you're not using routing. Even with tabs, I always would advise to use the router there.
Okay.
What do you think, Aristides?
What I usually do with breadcrumbs in a similar situation is to have a service with a behavior subject. So when I want to set the breadcrumb, I emit a value to this behavior subject, and I have another component, which maybe I call it breadcrumb component, that displays the breadcrumbs and listens to this behavior subject, subscribes to it. So when I push a breadcrumb from my component programmatically, the breadcrumb component listens to this value and subscribes and displays the breadcrumb. Or you can also pass it through the data object of the route, which is it is a property in the route configuration object that you can use for arbitrary data.
I love this because it's simple. I love simple. Behavior subject is the simplest thing, and I love it. What do you think, Sonder?
Yeah, that is a way to
Joe
store
loves
the
it.
thing. that is a way to store it. I was just saying about the breadcrumbs, how to get the data to store. I wasn't discussing the whole store thing, which Aris just did. Something you can do in the router also is adding titles. Nobody apparently knows about this, but you can add titles in your router and then just fetch those. The only problem is it's hard to traverse the router programmatically. So it's a mixed bag.
But the activated route snapshot, if you actually go into the docs and really, especially for the router, if you go into the docs and you really dig around in there, there's some really cool stuff in there. Because I think there's a way to get the parent route as well.
Yeah.
Through Angular will do it for you.
There is a problem
if you know how.
Yeah. There is a parent route and you can traverse up. There is one tiny problem. Every route has a parent route, even the top one. So there is no way to detect that you are up the tree. It's not easy to traverse the router from the program. Believe me, I've been looking into this. It can be done, but it is the router has like a very difficult data structure, which is hard to navigate.
Natty, did you want to say something?
No, just adding if he already is using NGRX router, but I don't think it applies because it's not routing to the components using the router, and it's a requirement that you use the router for using breadcrumbs with NGRX router.
There are routers that provide breadcrumbs, but then again, breadcrumbs is a general term and is always different in every application, because some applications say, no, we want to have the top things, like product, and on the next product, and like the filtering things, they want them in the breadcrumbs, and others say, no, we want history so people can go back where they came from, and others say, no, we want to have a location so that if you are on a product page like 3 levels deep, you can go to the category, which is like a different kind of breadcrumb, but it is all a breadcrumb. So there is no generic answer for this. It's really depending on the application you're working on. And the only thing is that they almost always look like a small bar with links next to each other.
Go ahead, Eris.
I suppose, Bonnie, other GDEs can do questions to other GDEs in this session, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to ask
allowed.
something. Yeah, I want to ask something, Sander. Maybe he knows about it. I saw a post some months ago that Natty has posted in the Angular Nation about why the activated root, when it is injected in a service, it does not know about the other. It doesn't know in which route it exists. And I would like to ask Sander if he knows why services does not know the activated route if you inject it.
Yeah, what the hell, Sander?
Because the service is not tied to a route. You can inject a router and you can get the current route, but you can ask the router from, hey, give me your current route. But the activated route is only known in a component. A component is like the leaf of the Angular tree. And a service is somewhere in the stem of the whole Angular tree, and it can go to different ways. So there is no way to know for sure which activated route goes with this service, unless you inject it in a component, and in that case, it does know the activated route.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. Thanks.
That was a headache when I solved it. And by the way, I remember it was either yours or Aristides or Chowtron's answer that got me there by using the router instead of the activated route. But I remembered of that when I was facing a similar issue, trying to navigate back from a lazy loaded module, to a parent route. There is a bug where you can't navigate back. You can't use relative routing using the ... and the slash to go back to a parent route when you're in a lazy loaded component.
That would make sense.
But why does it make sense? It doesn't make sense to me. If it already knows where it is, why can't it trace it back to the parent route when it's a lazy loaded module? I can look for the URL of the bug. It's known by Angular.
It is Angular doesn't know because of the reason I just stated. The Angular route tree is like a complex data structure, and it is hard to navigate. And even Angular itself doesn't fully get it.
You would think that it would bring everything like the history with it. But the problem is that, Natty, when we get into like really massive enterprise applications, if you think like that, it's going to get you in trouble, because the whole thing with Angular, like we really want everything to be like, individual pieces. And so you really want to be careful of like bringing all of the history with you and assuming that that's because it shouldn't necessarily bring especially if it's lazy loaded, right? Because how do you know? Does that make sense? Otherwise, you have to go backwards in history to figure out where you came from. If you're lazy loaded, then you should come in fresh, you would think. That's not as good an explanation as Saunders' explanation, but does that make sense?
It sort of makes sense. It still doesn't explain the way they fixed it.
Is it fixed? Do you have the link?
Yeah.
I remember the issue. I've run into it, but it's a long time
and it is fixed by passing an extra parameter to the router module configuration using relative link resolution corrected. And I remember we didn't do that in my project. So we have to rebuild the whole route, which is cumbersome and I hate it. But I still don't understand how they got there. It sort of makes sense now that you explained that they don't even really know which the route is if they're not in the leaf component.
The problem is the Angular route, it sounds really simple. The Angular router is statically analyzable, which would say, hey, that's easy. We have this data structure with all the trees and everything in there, and we can just traverse up and down and left and right. The thing is, in practice, parts of this tree are lazy loaded. A lazy loaded router has a different structure from a static router. I don't know why they choose this solution. I wasn't around on that day, I think. I had no influence on the router whatsoever, but it's something that that has grown out of control a little bit, I think. And I think the router is awesome, but at the same time, it's also overly complex because it tries to take in account everything that can be done with routing. And that's a hard thing to do. And they didn't get it right.
Well, it's hard to, I mean, some of this stuff gets very, very complicated. And it seems simple with a smaller project, but when it gets to a very large project.
No, it's a hard thing. Building a router is a hard thing to do. Mm-hmm. And building a router that with lazy loaded routes in combination with one of the problems is that the Angular modules reverse the, how is it called? You need to have the module to attach to the router so the router knows what all other things to load. And there is this reversal of control in there somewhere. And that makes it really, really hard to navigate this whole structure.
All right. That was a heck of a question. Eris, did you want to add something about the named outlets? Oh, yeah, she is using named outlets. Yeah. Well, not Natty. I mean, it's not. We can't blame Natty for this.
No. But named outlets it is a very difficult to implement because I feel that you have to implement it in a specific way only. I don't know why, but I feel that way for named outlets.
I totally agree there. The named outlets have been bug-ridden from the get-go. They are usable now because a couple of the bugs are fixed, like only in Angular 7 or 8 or something like that. The named outlets were there from the get-go, but they only started to work really unless you made like a specific sample. It worked, but nothing outside of this specific sample ever worked. And it is getting better, but I don't know by how much because I basically gave up on those things. And it really depends. If you have like named outlets, which could be useful for things like models or some other pop-ups or pop-in things, it would be cool, but it's just so much extra work that you can do without.
Sander, it looks like Jason Aiden is the one that was working on this in GitHub. Do we know him?
I know Jason.
Should we reach out to him? You want me to reach out to him and ask him to come and do a hallway chat with us and we can discuss and see how things are going?
I know Jason is very, very busy, so working on something else right now. So now is not the right time for this. And I think
we can get him on the calendar like a month or two, or is there somebody else that we could reach out to and just kind of get, because I haven't talked to anybody at the Angular team about routes lately in a while. So I don't know what they're doing with it or if there's any progress or anything. I haven't checked the roadmap either.
I think the router isn't on the roadmap, and there are other things that are more important that needs to go first. And one of the things that needs to go first is the thing Alex is working on. Because part of the problems with the router are also nested in ng modules.
All right. I actually have been, so we really, I want to get Alex Rickabaugh here for the hallway track pretty soon anyway, because he's amazing. And we can talk about that. And maybe we'll invite Jason too if he has time. But if he doesn't have time, that's fine. Okay, Rob, did you have a separate question or did you want to discuss more of the routers?
No, I'm all right out.
I really get a kick out of the fact that we have people here from all over the world. We've got the South Africa and the Nigeria and Ireland and just everything, and Greece and Rob is Brooklyn.
I'm Dominican.
Bronx.
I'm Dominican. I'm Hispanic. I live in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, it's the Brooklyn that I hear.
Right. Maybe it's the Spanish accent, I think, that you hear.
No, I'm from Houston. I hear Spanish accent all the time, but this is Brooklyn. Okay. It's different. Yeah. Anyway, it's very cool. I like all the different accents. I get a kick out of it.
You don't know if I know judo, karate. Anyway, I would like to know more about this module federation that I've been hearing about. I haven't had a chance to like dig into that, but that's like a topic that keeps on coming up, and I would like to understand more.
Wouldn't we all, Rob? Okay, so somebody asked a couple months ago. Someone asked a question that was something like, is anyone else using module federation in production, like in actual real life, right? And so I said, this is a great question. I posted it, and it started this whole discussion. And then we actually dedicated one of our Friday socials to this, and we brought Alex Rickabaugh, and of course, Sonder was there, and a couple of architects that were actually, that have these issues. And we had this whole conversation, which was a great conversation, which I absolutely highly would recommend if you're curious about this. However, that was a few months ago. So that's like old news now because the Angular team has continued moving forward with this. And Sonder explains this better than I do. So I'm going to let Sonder explain it. But also, Manfred Steyer he's been like early on that module federation. He loves it. I love Manfred.
Yeah, yes, pioneered most of the work there. And I think we should get Manfred in.
All right. I'll put him on the list. And then also, Minko reached out on the GDE channel last week or the week before and asked because they have this micro front ends on the Angular roadmap now. And so they've started reaching out to teams and they want to talk to teams. Specifically, they want to talk to teams who are already struggling with like basically the applications growing and getting
we had
bigger.
A question.
Minko was supposed to be here yesterday and we had to reschedule, which was totally my fault because I mixed up the calendar. And we're going to have him back very soon. And he actually wants to meet with teams who are looking at micro front end, who are already using the micro front ends. So that's going to be a very interesting conversation for sure. So Rob, did you have a question or you just want to see like what's testing the waters with the micro front ends?
If you watch back the recording from yesterday, I answered your question there, I think.
Okay. Sorry, I was like in a meeting and...
Yeah, no problem. But there is a recording and I answered most of your question there. Go watch that and I'm willing to elaborate on it. But I think most things are set on the subject. I think I asked Sho to ask me a question, but I forgot where it was about.
Oh, but we didn't record it. Yesterday we didn't record it. Sonder. Because we were going to reschedule our micro front ends discussion. And then we were just hanging out randomly, freestyling, answering questions. But we're gonna have that conversation. I'm sorry, I should have recorded it. I should know that Sonder was going to be dropping wisdom on us. I should always record when Sonder's talking to us. Sorry about that. But we are absolutely going to have further conversations about that because basically the way that I see it with the micro front ends is there are different companies that are struggling with different aspects, but the general pain that everybody's sharing is scaling, right? As it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it gets messier. And there are different solutions to that. So different companies are solving this in different ways. And that's really what the Angular team wants to kind of see, like what's working, what's not, and get your feedback on what you guys are doing. So your experiences around this problem is actually really a helpful part of the conversation, which I think is just so cool. Yeah. Yes, use iframes, Sonder.
That's the too long didn't
from
listen.
yesterday. Yeah, I now remember from yesterday's conversation the iframes. Yeah, that's we started using that in.
It's
my
the
place.
only feasible solution right now, because a model federation is really, really cool, but it has to be used very, very, very carefully, because it allows you to build like 5 different applications and load all of those applications in one page. And all of those applications will bring their own framework and their own memory resources and their own slowness, and you will
be careful
end up
what
with,
you wish for.
Yeah. The only good thing is that you have happy developers, because they don't have to care about the end result. They just have to care about their own part, which is a mixed blessing, I think. I think developers should care about the entire product and not just on their one piece. They need to focus on their one piece, but they should care on the whole product.
Speaking of focusing on one little piece, Kai, do you want to just jump into this conversation just for a minute? Okay. Hello, by the way, it's always good to see you. Kai is on the Storybook team, and Kai is amazing. And if you haven't heard of Storybook, we have a Storybook channel where they did an intro to Storybook talk that was just really, quick hello world. That is a great place to start. And also Kai is amazing, and he just like randomly answers people's questions. So thank you, Kai. Do you want to comment on this whole topic?
On what topic?
Well, you were mentioning Storybook. Does this Storybook use iframes or the micro front end?
Yes. For those who don't know Storybook, in a few words, it's basically a React application that offers you a living design system, an application where you can click through stories and see the result, a small component or a complete layout in the content area, and the whole manager, we call it manager, is a React application, but we need to render Angular stuff, and we could using Angular elements or things like that inside a React application. So we use an iframe. So it's basically some layer underneath, and they communicate, the manager and the preview. The preview is the Angular application, manager is the React app, communicate with each other, and it works.
If you ever have a large application that you're working on, and in order to get to the page, the component that you're actually working on, especially if you're doing like error messages or something like that, and you have to go through like several screens to get to the one, and every time you refresh it, you got to go back and navigate to the one that you're working on. That really is where I fell in love with Storybook, because it puts an end to that, and you can just like isolate the one that you're working on and feed in whatever inputs you want, and Storybook kind of handles that very beautifully. And Kai is like there answering all of our questions, which makes it really nice to implement. I think Storybook is really pretty easy to implement. It's just, I think a lot of people don't know about it, which is why I like to mention it once in a while and make sure that people know that if you want something like that, it's just really it's nice when you start getting a lot of components to be able to isolate one and just work on it individually, because things get crazy.
I agree on the easy one to implement, but as soon it feels like it has grown so big, this whole ecosystem, that I have to Google lots of things, and I should know them because I know the core code and stuff like that. But I go Googling and be on Stack Overflow how to disable the add-on panel in Storybook and stuff like that. So it has grown so big. If you just want to use the basic Storybook with its features as they come, it's easy, but it can get difficult, but it also depends on documentation. So if you're coming from React, you have a pretty great documentation, and we definitely need way more contributors to the documentation of other frameworks.
Yep. And in the meantime, we have, if you're doing Storybook with Angular, we have the Storybook channel here and Kai to help you. And he's amazing, and we appreciate it. And by the way, you have office hours coming up, like specifically for Storybook, right? Tomorrow, yeah. So if you want to like deep dive into Storybook and nerd out, you can ask questions. You can, if you want to implement it, or you can just hang out and listen if you want to. And also, I just want to throw this out there because, and actually, this is a good segue for Val. We lost Oya. But if Oya comes back, Steven had a question about his headphones. So Anna Boca is doing a talk about Cypress in the Angular Africa channel right after this, like 15 minutes from now. We're very excited about this. We've been waiting forever. So we're going to wrap this up here in a minute. And also, Storybook is another one that I think is just like kind of an undiscovered gem because I love Storybook and I love the Storybook team, but a lot of people haven't really had a chance to mess with it yet because it's, you know, you don't need it. It's just there to make your life easier. And especially as you get into bigger projects, it actually kind of will make a pretty big difference in your development experience. Anyway, so my point is that I'm always reminding people, if you, and I see some of you haven't, this might be the first time you hear this, if you have any interest in doing a technical talk and you want to learn something new, and if you have any interest in Storybook, I would encourage you to wander over to the Storybook channel because this is the thing, right? Especially if you're a beginner and you're not really that confident, but you want to learn things, that when you, and this is the same thing with Anna Boca, right? Anna is an intern and she's like just learning. She's just figuring this stuff out. She's brand new to Angular. And so we paired her up with an expert. And so she prepares her introductory talk and then shows it to the expert. And then they go through, this is the same thing I was saying earlier that we do with Sonder. Like we will all prepare our talks and then show it to an expert to make sure everything is right. And then you don't have to have all that pressure of making sure everything's perfect before you show it. Right. So we give that support. And so if anybody is curious about Storybook or if anybody is, curious about maybe doing a technical talk, I just want to put a bug in your ear and kind of put an idea in your head that this is a very good place to practice and you can get some support. And Oya's back. Oya, we have a question for you. Steven wants to know, we all want to know really, are the headphones Bose? They look like Bose. Yeah. He's styling. Look at that. That's very nice, Oya.
Thank you.
Was there something? Okay. Did we have any other? Oh, okay. There was something else that I wanted to say before we wrapped up. And I just want to say one more time, I know we started with this, but I can never say this enough. Thank you, Sonder, because I was really listening to what you were saying. And I love the fact that we can bring you the most complicated problems that we have in our jobs. And somehow you make it all simple again. And I love you for that. So can we just all hear it for Sonder? Thank you, Sonder.
Thank you, Sander.
Thank you, Sander.
You're all trying to make me shy.
Sander, you're the best.
Well,
please do not let your head hit the keyboard. It goes forward.
Don't let it go to your head, Sonder. Okay, and I want to remind everybody, tomorrow we have Kai in the Storybook channel doing office hours. So if you have questions about Storybook or if you're curious about Storybook, it's very cool. And you should definitely go over there and check it out, especially if you're on a larger team. If you're not using Storybook, this is the kind of thing that would make a very cool little proof of concept where if you have some free time and you kind of go off to the side and like implement Storybook and then go back and show it to your team and they love it, then you just look really cool. And I actually learned Storybook in the beginning from another colleague that put it into our project. And then I saw it and I was like, wow, that's cool. And I thought he wrote the whole thing. I was very impressed. Turns out it was Storybook. So you can actually look that cool too. Just consider it. And then also a shout out for Aristides Pampakos, who's going to be on Angular Sussex. When is that? Tomorrow? Hold on.
Yeah,
but
tomorrow.
Luckily, the Storybook office hours and Angular Aristides on Angular Sussex are not at the same time. Don't worry. Don't worry. You can go to both of them. So you can RSVP for Angular Sussex and see a little snippet of Aris's new book in the Angular Europe channel. And then in the Storybook channel, you can go and RSVP for Kai's office hours. Oh, and Val, Oya, you guys want to tell us what's going, because this is why I'm being so careful not to let us go over today, because I am not going to be late for Little Miss Anna Boca. Do you guys want to give us a sneak preview? And I also wanted you to meet Azaria from South Africa. Azaria, remember I was telling you earlier about Val and Oya? Here they are. Do you guys want to say hello?
Yeah. I also have a small announcement. We have for the Dutch speakers under us. We have a Dutch Angular lunch where we are speaking Dutch.
When is this?
Thursday.
Ik ben oefenen mijn Nederlands spreken. Ja, tot ziens.
You can hang out with us. It's at 1 or 2, I think, on Thursday. It should be announced on one of the channels.
Yeah, I think the mail already, I got the mail.
Yeah.
I don't see it on Angular Nation. It might be on the meetup, but it would be nice. It should be on Angular Nation because I didn't see it. Yeah, that sounds very cool.
It's going to be a monthly event on every last Thursday, I think, or every third Thursday. I don't know. Jeffrey told me, but I just see it on my calendar and show up.
I love it. So come and practice your Dutch.
Yep.
Val, do you want to give us a little hello and tell us about your Angular Africa? Val came to me like a long time ago and I didn't even know him. He was like, hey, Bonnie, can I have a channel for Nigeria? And I was like, who are you? So we had a meeting and I was like, yeah, you're cool. Yeah, you can have a channel. And now it's Angular Africa and it's grown a lot. And I tried to introduce Val to Oya. I was like, Val, you're going to love this guy. He's really cool. And he's like, Oya's like sitting right next to me. So,
hi, everyone.
How are you, Val? It's good to see you, my
Fine,
friend.
thank you. Hi, Azaria. It's nice to meet you. So,
Azaria had questions about Cyprus.
Yeah, that's good to know. You're from South Africa, yeah?
Yes, I am.
Oh, that's good. I think we hang out maybe after this meetup, maybe after our testing event. So I'm the leaders of Angular Africa, and Oye here with me is my co-host, and we're trying to make things happen with the help of Bonnie as well. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you very much. So this evening we are having Anna Boka. She'll be taking us through Cyprus, and the other good side of it is that she's coming with some guys from the Cyprus team. So I'm very sure you guys don't want to miss that opportunity. So the event will be starting by 5:30, which is 8 minutes from now. So I'm hoping that I'm going to see every one of you guys there. So basically that's it. Yeah.
Love it. Super excited. I really love the Angular Africa channel. These guys are so much fun and they're very welcoming. You do not need to be from Africa to go to the Angular Africa channel. Obviously, they're super friendly and everybody's welcome. And they're also obviously always looking for speakers. And I think Azaria wanted to nominate a speaker. So yeah, super friendly people. I love it. I'm going to end this a little bit early just so we can all get up and stretch our legs, maybe go to the bathroom and make sure we're not late for Anabokas. If you guys haven't met Anaboka yet, we've known her here for a while and we love Anaboka. She's amazing. And the Cyprus team is really great. And so I'm going to wrap that up. Any last final thoughts, Sonder, Eris, from our Angular GDE today?
Oh, do you need more thoughts? I'm running out of those.
That's okay. That's okay. We always appreciate you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Eris. And that's it for tonight, everybody. We'll see y'all soon. Thanks for coming.
Send a link for the meeting now that's going to take place. Is there
It's in. You can go to the Angular Africa channel or you can go to the Cyprus channel, and either one you'll find a link. Just RSVP, and then you'll get the link for the meeting.
Oh, this is the one with the testing, right? Cyprus.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right now, 6 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
See
We'll
you
see you
then.
there.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Bye.